Hello and welcome back to the podcast. If this is your first time listening, please follow me on Spotify, the podcast app on Apple devices, or YouTube at Real Juan Alcala. If you find the content interesting, leave a rating or comment. You can also follow me on Instagram on my official page at Reasonable with Juan Alcala and watch clips on TikTok at Reasonable Juan. Reasonable underscore Juan. Just as a usual intro there that I usually put on, that I usually say before my episodes. This is Mark's episode 9, almost 10 episodes into this podcast, this show. This is something that I never imagined would last this long, to be honest, but looking here on my phone, let's say, I think it's been about 3 months almost since I started this. The first time I started this podcast, I think it was back in let's see, March 30th, 2025. So this is my third month podcasting. So where are the guests? I don't know. I think that the guests, people coming onto this podcast to do interview or to get interviewed by me or have conversations with me, I still think I'm not ready on the production side to be able to handle that yet. I don't think I have enough space here in my room. It's not a big room here. Here in this condo, in this townhome. I will provide updates on that. I don't know who's interested in being a guest so far. There have been people that I have in mind for being a guest on here. A part of me just wants to invite my friends to do this, to be honest with you, just because it's easy to talk to friends, it's easy to have conversations and to go into depth about certain subjects with a friend. And I think it would be fun. I think it would be cool to see that different side of me on this podcast and really just see how that can work out on the microphone, because I think behaviors and the way people conversate in front of a camera and a mic is different than without it. But I hope I don't get that feeling. I don't give that feeling over to my guests, because it can be a little bit daunting for a person doing this type of medium. And in general, I don't know if conversations are even the most entertaining thing for people to be engaged in nowadays, just because of phones and so many distractions. I don't know if if there's a way for me to keep a conversation for that long, let's just say. But I'm excited to confront that challenge. As of right now, it's still something off into the distance. I want to at least get to a certain amount of episodes before I have those conversations with other people, especially people that I respect and deserve my attention in the best way possible. And yeah, but I have friends in different occupations that would be interesting to kind of pick their brain on what they do every day and how other people see that type of profession, maybe, or that type of job. All of that I think is interesting for the average person. But anyways, just get some water here. Another thing before I continue this episode, I almost produced this show like as if people aren't listening, and that gives me some sense of like freedom because I don't have a certain pressure to. I have pressure, of course. I have pressure on myself to make sure that this is something that I would listen to on my own time. But there's an added pressure that I don't yet feel just because my audience isn't as big. And I think I heard it somewhere, maybe on the PBD podcast. Patrick Bet David. He has his own media company called Value Entertainment, and he has a whole video on podcasting. And while I was watching it, it gave me the impression that, yeah, you want your audience to be small at first. You don't want a lot of listeners to go ahead and listen to your show very quick, immediately, especially in the beginning stages of finding yourself on the mic. If you try to put yourself in my perspective as someone who is an introvert and not completely engaged in conversations all on the daily basis, I find myself still searching for words, hunting for the right descriptions of things, or thinking of stories, or thinking of ways that I can tie subjects together and continue that flow. I I am so far removed. I guess I'm like so far. I have a lot to learn. So far I have a lot to learn, and I started this podcast still with that beginner's mindset, and I continue that beginner's mindset just because I know that in the grand scheme, or in a bigger time frame, these beginning stages is what the rest of the show is going to be built upon. And every time I do this, I learn something new about myself and about production of this. I even see myself becoming just a producer and producing podcasts for people, not necessarily being on the mic, but definitely being on the production side of it, which is also a can of worms. It's a whole different thing. Besides just talking on the mic and trying to make it entertaining and engaging for the listener. But I appreciate the people listening to me. I appreciate you for listening to this wherever you are, in your car, on a jog, out at the gym. Maybe you're at working and you're allowed to wear headphones. I just hope people don't get in trouble just to listen to this rambling session of mine here on the Reasonable podcast. But I I am still searching for the right description of what this podcast is. I mean, I started with the idea of having a podcast that just involves philosophy, but I am finding myself to be interested in not just that, and in other things as well. Like I wanted to make an episode on Diddy specifically, but at the same time, I don't know what else to say about that guy. I mean, that hasn't been said already, and that hasn't been written about it as well. People know what this guy is accused of, and all the evidence is looking like this guy was a piece of shit. So, excuse my language, but this guy literally is a demon straight from hell, right? Of course, I'm being hyperbolic and saying that, but this guy was that just shows you how much disdain I have for P. Diddy. But for that to be the case, for me to make an episode on P. Diddy, I would have to make sure that I had all the facts in order The only thing that I would probably comment on is that his trial would have been, if it was shown publicly, like kind of like the Johnny Depp and Amber Heard trial, this trial would have been different. I think people would have reacted to it differently. I think that people would would be more fascinated by it, even sharing clips of the trial on TikTok or on YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels and other social media outlets. I think that this trial would have been even more. It would have been amplified. It would have been given the biggest platforms on the internet, right? But since it's just a depictions of it and drawings of it, I think much of it can be left to a person's reliance on other people's witnessing the trial and reports on it. And since this trial is still ongoing, I think that it would be appropriate to talk about this trial even more so at the end of it. When all the details have been shown to everybody, and everybody has a certain level playing field when it comes to Diddy's case. But the it just my opinion of it is that it just shows you the disgusting nature of fame, of specifically the music industry, because I'm not sure, and this is completely speculation, that Diddy is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to a what's it called, I guess you could say a more of uh of a bigger of an evil. Yeah, the best way I can describe it is probably just like a the the tip of an iceberg, really. And there's much more to be revealed through different artists. I mean, just in my lifetime, I mean, we have become more exposed to the truth, especially the truth in Hollywood and the truth in the music, like I said, in the music industry, of how people get into positions where they're able to succeed in these industries. And it's appalling. It's horrific. It should be, you know, banned. It should be just, I don't know. I think exposing it is enough exposing it is not enough. Obviously, people need to be brought into justice, and I'm glad that Diddy is being brought into justice because of the things that he was doing to coerce people into doing sexual acts and then blackmailing them to after the fact, with having clips of them of doing said sexual acts, and I just hear that. I mean, from what I've seen on YouTube is that he's hired a lot of male and female escorts to participate in freak offs, quote freak offs, and these freak offs would last days on end. And there's a lot of talk even before the trial of the infamous Diddy parties. I mean, people and certain celebrities are trying to get away from it, and be trying to be as distant and far away from this as possible. And I don't know. I just think that um that's probably the smartest thing to do, to be honest with you. After years of them saying, of people saying, celebrities saying, there is no party like a Diddy party. Ain't no party like a Diddy party is what they would say. What people would say. And now, perhaps that's probably the worst thing you could say, right? But see, I don't know. I think there's a line drawn, because there are certain people I imagine, did go to a Diddy party but they weren't in those freak offs, or they didn't. I'm sure that they. I don't know if this is even fair to say that they should even be guilty of the rest of the things, right? Because I don't know, because if them even just being around it, aware of it, even though they didn't participate in it, yeah. So needless to say, they knew about it and they didn't say anything. I mean, that's messed up. I feel a little congested here, guys. But yeah, there's a lot of details on the Diddy trial, on who Diddy is as a celebrity, as a music mogul, and his it's just a lot to kind of break apart and to talk about here. But Diddy, I think Diddy is going to lose a trial. If I had to speculate, he's going to spend the rest of his life in prison, where he deserves to be in prison. Um, and yeah. So apart from that, I had a list of here things I wanted to talk about, but excuse me, there, guys. Oh, it brings me to my next point. It's here. Health concerns. Health concerns, guys. I think last week I talked about kind of I talked about how I wanted this podcast to be personal and to have this outlet for myself to express, the complete package of who I am as a person for my listeners. And I want to be as authentic as possible, not just in this podcast, but in general in life. I like honest. Like honesty. I value honesty. I value being transparent. And I'll be honest with you guys that I am going through some health concerns at the moment. Apart from me just having some type of cold that I'm fighting, I had a bladder infection. It scared the shit out of me, scared the piss out of me, because, and quite literally, cannot stop peeing. And however embarrassing it sounds and all that, I mean, I don't know why this is the case, but this is something that I wanted to share because it's inspiring me to get my health in order and to get healthy, to go on a healthy run with the gym and the diet, and so I'm out here like trying to seeking for help, really. I've gone on a cleanse, no alcohol, no marijuana, no THC, same thing. The only thing that I drink is coffee and water at the moment. But I think that it's the best thing to do, especially in my age, being 26 years old. I to be having bladder infections and getting sick all the time. It's not a good thing for me. I value health. I've always said that I value health, but I never put the action behind that, the habits behind that, to really make a difference in my day-to-day life. I know some information on how to lose weight and how to be healthy, and a lot of it is discipline, and it takes the right habits to implement that. I weighed myself today. I weigh 250 pounds today. 250, maybe 251 pounds today. I don't remember, but here I have the data. So I have a scale that reads my measurement. So I weigh 251 pounds. My BMI is at 34.0%. I'm 31% body fat, and that's all bad. Here, if you can see it, well, I'm not gonna share everything with you, but it's not looking good. It's very unimpressive. It's very tragic. And with the health concerns that I have, I recognize that how important it is to have a healthy body, and so I have to put my mind to the test and my spirit to the test in terms of like being disciplined and saying no to drinks and say no to weed or say no to bad food. So this is partly a record. I guess this podcast might be a record of what I'm dealing with on a health level. But so far, I mean, I've been going to the gym pretty consistently. Here on the EOS app, I have been going to the gym since May 20th. May 20th. And today is the second day of May. I mean, second day of June. So I've gone a total of 8 times in May and 1 time in June. Oh, well, it's strange because I went 2 times and I went today. Maybe it didn't scan, but I went today. I jogged about 3 miles, and in those 3 miles, I felt pretty comfortable. I stopped only because of time. I knew that I only wanted to be at the gym for an hour, and my goal is to eventually condense my workout with high intensity and continue to have that hour mark, because when I start university again on my next semester, I won't have as much time to be able to work on certain muscle groups or conditioning. And so I think right now in the summers is a great time to get in the habit of going and staying disciplined, especially in the diet side of things. But that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at because as I've discovered, and this isn't new to me, but I know that kidney disease is in my family's history. I mean, my mom has kidney disease. She she has kidney failure, and she goes to dialysis, and that has unleashed a whole hell of various complications that she's dealing with, and the pain of it and the suffering of it is something that I still can't wrap my head around. I still can't understand, but I can only watch her and feel like so much sadness for her. But she's a warrior, she's a champion, and she continues to have a great mindset. And part of that is a connection with religion and us as a family, and even just the way that she sees herself. She's a very strong woman, and so I get my inspiration from her. And yeah, I mean, I told her about it, and she told me that she wants me to be healthy. So he added more incentive, not incentive, but motivation and support, I guess, to lose weight, to stay in a healthy weight range, and so I have to do all the boring things that I didn't want to do in the past, which was waking up early, going to the gym, and staying consistent, and bouncing back from adversity. I mean, with this, I won't say all the details of it, but basically, I couldn't sleep at night because I would have to wake up to go use the restroom, and this was very tragic for me because then I wouldn't be able to sleep well, and continuously use the bathroom throughout the day, and so it disrupted my ability to work. It disrupted um, just everything that I was going through up until that, which was I think last Wednesday. But today is a new day, and I continue recovering from various illnesses. I guess you can say I don't want to be sick, but that's just where I am with my health. And I encourage other people that are listening to this podcast. I don't know if I'm like there yet to encourage people to the max like that, but yeah, it is important. It is important to take care of your health along with your mental health. Like I've talked about mental health on this before. Your physical health obviously goes hand in hand with mental health, and the lack of energy that I've had has stemmed from not being able, not exercising, not having the conditioning, and not having the willpower, I guess, to be successful in other areas in my life. I mean, when I was in school, I wasn't exercising, and so I was spending more time necessary on intellectual things, right? When I could have probably gone to the gym more. And so I criticize myself in that aspect. Um, but the gym is good. I like to go pretty early just because there's less people, more access to other gym equipment that is usually occupied. And so at the moment I'm satisfied with just being able to go an hour and working on arms, working on legs, strengthening my legs, and conditioning for at least 15 minutes. So that's just what my general idea is. You know, I'm open to hearing what people have to say about it, what people have saying about my gym routine, and, you know, adjusting as time goes on, because that's just what growth entails, is to adjust the plan, right? But besides from that, I also wanted to talk about the importance of mental health. Sorry, guys. Can I hear just frog in my throat, I guess. Mental health. So I did touch a little bit upon physical health. Wanted to talk more about mental health, especially men's mental health. And I know sometimes life can seem so fucked up, and there doesn't seem to be a clear cut answer to life other than just keep going, you know. And sometimes the answer is not a sufficient answer for some people, and they're continuing their struggles with depression and anger issues and sadness and anxiety. I already said sadness and depression is the same thing. But yeah, I feel for those people out there that are dealing with loneliness and don't have someone to talk to, and just really going about life on their own, you know. And a part of me respects that, but also I would also respect the people that went and you know, I would love for people to seek for help. You know, I just sometimes I go back and forth on myself and on whether or not people do go and seek help. I hope they do. Excuse me there, guys. But my mental health has been tested for sure. It has been tested with, specifically with like, I think I talked about solitude and the idea of being alone, and being alone has become a superpower. But there are times where I feel like none of my efforts really have an effect or have a meaning to the rest of the world, and everything that I put my effort into ultimately will just be a waste of time. And I had that negative guide, that negative gravitational pull towards something that I'm constantly fighting against in my mind. Especially on the daily basis of whether or not to act kindly and justly to people. I Are there times that I'm rude to people? Yes. Are there times that I could have been more kinder? I could have been more empathetic? Yeah, of course. Are there times where I could have been a better friend to even ask, conversate, and be present in the moment with that person? Yeah. I just, with this podcast, and, dealing with my work balance, is sometimes it's strange to me. I mean, I think it is strange for people to kind of even know about that. To know that I have a podcast and I'm talking about myself in such a personal way. I definitely understand why people wouldn't want to listen to this, but I challenge people to listen to this anyways, because I feel like in my struggle, maybe you will have a connection with it, and we all have a struggle. I'm not saying that I'm struggling the most and that so I deserve some recognition from it or a prize or something. And that's not really what I want, but I just want people to know that they're not the only ones suffering, because sometimes we all get wrapped up in our lives and start thinking that we're the only ones dealing with unfortunate events, unfortunate disfortune, in the wheel of fortune. Sometimes we get screwed over. And yeah, I I am grateful right now in this moment for being able to be on this podcast with you guys, and continue to build upon whatever I've been saying in the past. And so right now I am in a good spot where I can deal with adversity, and I have that mental strength now to have the confidence now to you know to speak my mind, not just on this podcast but in real life, to speak my mind and to be present and not floating away in some abstract thinking about whatever. And but I wish that my whatever solutions that I had worked with other people, but obviously whatever is helping me overcome my mental health struggles, is not going to be the same for other people. Yeah. And I just hope that people find the right support, find a psychologist, get therapy, talk to someone, talk to a friend, talk to a coworker, talk to someone. And please don't deal with your pain alone. There are people out there willing to talk and to sit with you and to just hear you out. Sometimes you just need to be listened to. Just need someone's attention. In a world of just constant distractions, everybody's doing something, always busy. Even being fake busy doing something that ultimately is taking them away from what really matters in life, which is family, friends, and relationships with people. All this podcasting and my desire to get a degree and to be successful, financially successful, is ultimately just to serve my family and my future family with the kids I want to have, So I keep it pretty straightforward. That's what the goal. That's what ultimately the goal is to serve that, you know. And when I went to therapy, I remember talking to my therapist talking about filling this imaginary cup full of your energy, right? If you're constantly dumping your energy to other people, giving them your energy, doing this for them, doing that, eventually you get drained. You get left with nothing, and you have to re-energize yourself. You have to find what re-energizes you, what gives you life, passion, what gives you the strength to keep going. And I don't know if it's God for me. I always go back and forth with my religion and my belief. And lately I've been feeling this pull to talk about God and to talk about my faith, openly. And it just makes me so passionate to talk about that because, with all the adversity that I've dealt with in my life, I think God, the idea that there is a God that is benign and just and looking after me is comforting. It's comforting because with all the sins that I commit, that how flawed I am as a person, that there is a God that forgives me and that loves me. But also I have to do my part to be a better Catholic, to be a better follower of Jesus. But then another side of me goes back and forth with religion and wants to just talk about other things and and that's a dilemma I'm in. I'm in the dilemma of following what I was taught as a child and follow tradition and follow Catholicism. Just not really just completely relying on logic and reason, but faith and belief, and that is something that I kind of find inspiring and hopeful. It's to believe in a higher power and a higher force that is just way more comforting than the idea of that there is no God and that that evil and suffering and pain and all this happens without a purpose, and it's just human beings just trying to figure survival of the fittest out here, and so it's not really a painting that I would say is beautiful there in that aspect. It's very gruesome, but nature is that, right? Nature, it can be gruesome when you look at the details of nature. Nature is buck wild. It's crazy, of predators hunting for prey and the dead being consumed and constant death and life, everything just being murdered. And it's fucked up reality, but it is that reality that we are human beings that have this in unique endowment of reason and logic and consciousness to be able to be aware of nature itself. So we are something that is uniquely special. And in that, I guess my mind goes to that maybe God did create us this way. Maybe God set in motion life on this planet, eventually developed consciousness, and God was able to, I don't know, I don't know what scientists say about it, about where consciousness comes from, but it is very unique. It seems like it's unique to humanity, but apart from that, I'll leave it at that. I mean, what else have I been doing? I finished a book here. I'm gonna show you guys here. It's called Word Painting: The Fine Art of Writing Descriptively by Rebecca McClanahan. So Mrs. Rebecca McClanahan wrote this 260-page book for writers that struggle with writing descriptively. Novelists, people writing nonfiction. I had this on the bookshelf behind me for a while now, but the reason why I read this book, is because, well, it was next. It was next on the bookshelf. I'm kind of just going through the top right here. I'm pointing to my bookshelf to my listeners. I'm reading the top row as much as I can through this year. The bottom shelf is my girlfriend's. I'm pointing to the bottom shelf. And so I wanted to really just gain all that knowledge that I have behind me. I have all these books and I want to buy more, but I don't read them. It just seems like a bad idea to just leave them there, just collecting dust. So I wanted to make use of it. But this book was good, Word Painting, because I'm going to kind of point it this way. But this book is good. I liked it. It was a tough read because it has figurative language, which I'm not accustomed to reading figurative language through descriptions like poems or other things, but I am aware that there are certain terms or certain ways to describe things in a beautiful way. Of course, am I a good person? Am I good at describing things? Absolutely not. I can't describe this book. I can't tell you everything I learned in this book. But what I do know is that to describe something is to help push the narrative along, is to tell a story, right? And so I don't think this describing things is the main point of storytelling, and that's pretty obvious, but it is an important factor of being able to conversate and describe things. There, an important key to this book that I enjoyed was bringing philosophy into it, and Aristotle's poetics was mentioned in this book. And in poetics, and for people that don't know, Aristotle is a, let me remember how Aristotle is. I think he's a Greek philosopher. Let me look it up, or maybe he's a Roman. Aristotle, I want to get this right because I always get mixed up with Plato and Aristotle, but I'm pretty sure Plato is a Greek philosopher and Aristotle is a Roman philosopher that founded Stoicism. Oh. Oh, okay, I was wrong. Aristotle was, and this is from ChatGPT, so take it with a grain of salt. Aristotle was an ancient Greek philosopher and scientist widely regarded as one of the most influential thinkers in Western history. A student of Plato and tutor to Alexander the Great, Aristotle made foundational contributions to philosophy, logic, ethics, politics, biology, metaphysics, and rhetoric. Key ideas and contributions. So yeah, it talks about logic and syllogism, a form of deductive reasoning. Four causes: material cause, formal cause, efficient cause, final cause, and so on and so forth. But he basically has talked about a lot of things, and one of the things that I mentioned in word painting is poetics and aesthetics. In poetics, he analyzes tragedy, defining key elements like plot, character, and catharsis. So, tissue right here. Just out here getting sick in front of you guys. But yeah. The key thing about describing things is that you want to have a description of things where you have specific names of things, right? Like everything has a name to it. And when you're trying to describe things, usually it's a failure to just to name that specific thing. And even when I talk in Spanish, I have difficulty talking because I can't describe what I'm trying to say. Can't put certain words to things, certain words to ideas, and the way that I talk is very much abstract and not here in this present moment, but often in the world of ideas sometimes. And yeah, so part of it, part of describing things is being specific on the label of things. And it's such a powerful thing to be able to know the name of everything, basically. And especially in writing, you want to name things specifically, especially if you want to describe things, or when you're telling a story, you want to be accurate and characters' names or character what they were doing and and even describing things of importance. Because if you're just describing everything just for the sake of describing things, then the person's like kind of like, come on, hurry up, just tell me what happened, right? What is the point of you just like writing this long beautiful description for no reason, right? But the reason I'm saying that is because I found this book to be difficult in the sense that as a person that is not a writer, as a person that doesn't have an interest in literature like maybe other people do, well, not literature, but in writing, I found that this book is helping me see things in a different perspective in terms of like describing things and what is important to describe, and most of the time descriptions involve the senses, right? And so when I'm just trying to tell a story, now I know what is relevant elements to a story, and then part of it is certain things do need a specific description. And this book was very long. It was, well, for me it was long. 260 pages, that's long. I know other people probably read like 1,000-page books and stuff, but it took me about 2 weeks to get through that for sure, easily. But yeah, so I got about 10 more minutes of this podcast, but thank you guys for listening. I'm not ending this now, but I do want to start leaving you guys with certain points. I talked about my physical health. I talked about what I'm doing in my life. I talked about mental health a little bit. I talked about what I was reading. I talked about Diddy a little bit. And now I want to talk about something before I leave, and that is, okay, summer vacation until new semester. So as of right now, I have good time to produce this podcast because of summer vacation. I have I have a good amount of time before I have to go back to school to make episodes and whatever, but I will try. I would do my best to produce an episode every week, and that's what I've been doing already. In the past, I have missed weeks of posting an episode or whatever, but I do genuinely love doing this. I don't know what type of value you get from it, other than just like hearing me cough right now and sneezing. But you know, bear with me here, guys. I'm a little bit nasally and just nasty right now, but I'm feeling good. I know that besides me being having health concerns, I do just want to do my best to produce content for you guys. Even just to have this episode is cool for me because this is the longest podcast show that I've ever produced in my life, and I'm blessed. I'm grateful to be able to do it. It's such an honor. I It's so strange. It's such a strange thing when people know about it and talk to me about it. It just seems like, oh God, yeah, that's right. I have this show, right? But not even just that. I am excited to talk about it to other people. I'm just not used to the idea yet of having this and being confident about this is about. But what it is about is our journey to learn, our journey of education, our journey of getting this podcast to be better together. Guests are coming. Guests are coming, and I am looking for people to be guests on this show. So if you're listening and you want to be a guest, please let me know. I will make a list. I will put you on it, and we will see what we can do here on Reasonable and see where it goes from there. I am so sometimes I don't know the right words to say this, but I'm like I'm just shocked of how much love I get from people. You know, it just makes me speechless knowing that people do listen to this. You know, even though it's just maybe a handful of people or whatever. You know, eventually I wish for this podcast to have a bigger audience, and if it doesn't, then keep going. I'm gonna keep going, see where it goes. But yeah, summer vacation has been nice, especially after a long semester. Semester, this semester has been long, especially with the math. The math has been very troubling for me. The math and the philosophy of it has been cool. Well, still being on my bachelor's degree, I know a lot of people are not impressed, but I'm impressed with myself because I was not in this path 2 years ago, not even a couple months ago. I was not on this path to going back to school and getting my degree. I thought I was done. That it was done. Done. But for whatever reason, I'm and the reason is, ultimately to become wiser and to become knowledgeable of philosophy, and then all the content that I find about philosophy is very interesting to me. But there are other things that I want to talk about, especially with the world being so interesting as it is, currently reading this book, How to Change Your Mind by Michael Pollan. It says, what the new science of psychedelics teaches us about consciousness, dying, addiction, depression, and transcendence. So we'll read this. It's a pretty meaty book here. It'll take longer than the other book. We're getting started right away on that. I have a X account, formerly known as Twitter. It's at Alcala J _J, Juan Alcala. Find me on X. I am posting on there, posting my tweets there, posting my posts. I don't know what they call them now, but just little snippets of what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling at the moment, I guess. But thank you guys for listening. This has been another episode 9 of Reasonable with Juan Alcala. I like I said before, I'm grateful for your time. I'm grateful for people to listen to this, and thank you so much, guys. Until next time, I am long enough. Later, guys.